This is the first video of how to make a electrode slurry starting from your synthesized material, which should look something like this. Okay, so this is the material you should all have made. If we're going to make a slurry, we have three components. We've got the active material, which is, say, what you've just made. There's a conductive carbon, which is this, carbon black. And then there's a polymer binder, which I will show you later. First of all, we need to measure out 0.8 grams of our active material. You can see we're using a 4-figure balance here. We don't need to get it exactly at 0.8000, but about half a milligram above or below should be okay. Once we've got this powder, which you can see I've weighed out on a piece of folded aluminium, I generally find this is best because you can make sure that you removed all of it whenever you're done weighing. So make sure it's pre-folded down the middle, get a clean glass vial and just gently, carefully, so you don't want to spill any because you need all of this. Okay, just make sure there's no bits of powder left. You can say that's completely clean. We're happy that all of the powder has been transferred, and this now is exactly pretty much 0.8 grams of our active material. Okay, so just be warned with the carbon, it is very, very fluffy. It's quite high surface area carbon, so it can blow about all over the place if you move your spatula too quickly. So I've weighed out my carbon and I've added it to the active material that I made earlier, so that both two are combined in here. So we have two of our three components. We've got the active material and the carbon. So now we just need the polymer binder, which is PVDF. Now the thing with PVDF is it's quite a difficult solid to weigh out because it's white and sticky and horrible. So what we do is we pre-dissolve it in a known weight ratio in the solvent we're going to be using to make our slurries. In this case it's NMP solvent. So if I just open this, this is 10 weight percent and we want 0.1 grams of PVDF. So to achieve this I need to weigh out a gram of this mixture, and therefore I know that 0.1 gram of the binder is going to be in this vial here. Okay, so we've pre-weighed out our vial, tared it. Now I need to just drip in this mixture, and because we've dissolved it in a solvent, we can afford to be slightly less accurate with our measurement. So anything which is actually 5 milligrams above or below in this weight should be fine. You'll only need about a single milliliter of this mixture. Okay, so just keep an eye on the scales as it's going in. As I say, you will only need about a mil in total. We need to combine these two, so just simply take one vial and tip you need to make sure virtually all of it transfers into the vial. So we can see now that we've got some binder and solvent and the rest of the mixture. If we try to make this into a slurry now, it would be way too thick. Okay, so we need to add more solvent to make sure that we get a nice mixture. For reference, it shouldn't be, it's one of those things, it should kind of be like a honey or like an icing sugar type consistency. I know for this particular material that I've made here that I will need to add about just somewhere between 2 and 3 mils of solvent to make sure that this is a nice mixture. So just add it directly on top and then get a spatula guys might hand grind this. I'm going to use a ball mill, but what you end up with is something like this. So you can see it kind of rolls off the spatula, but it's not really runny and it's not kind of dripping off really quickly, but it is at least dripping off. Okay, so this, I'm happy with this. I think this is going to be the right consistency. So the next step is to mill it or hand grind it until it's a nice smooth paste. You may need to add more solvent as you go along if it begins thickening up, but we'll be around to help you decide how much that will be. Just going to show you a little trick for getting the aluminium foil perfectly flat on the spreader, which you need to do to make sure that your paste is nice and flat whenever it's spread. Basically get some solvent like ethanol or acetone, make a little puddle in the middle, and then lay your aluminium foil on the top. The moment it isn't nice and flat, but if you get some paper towel and then rub it flat. So just before we show you what to do with the slurry, I'm going to show you exactly how the spreader works. So we have a machined micrometer spreader here, where basically if you twist this left or right, it adjusts the distance that the blade sits above the surface. So I don't know if you can see there, Tom, if you move the camera down, but you can see there's a tiny gap between the aluminium foil here and the actual blade, and that distance corresponds to what we set on here. But we'll show you how to do that when in the actual practical. Okay, this here is a it's like a slow spreader. So we haven't put any slurry on here yet, but I'll just show you how it works. If I hit run, this bar moves across really, really slowly and just gently pushes this across the aluminium foil, which we are spreading our cathodes on. And then when it gets to the end, this will fall off. Yeah, and it will move back again. Okay. Okay guys, obviously you'll be hand grinding. This has been done by ball mill, but this is just to give you an idea of how kind of glossy and smooth your electrode paste should be after you've finished. Can you see here there are no lumps or bumps, and it does gently drip off a spatula. So that's kind of the consistency we're looking for whenever we're making electrode slurries. Okay, so I'm just going to put some of this on this aluminium foil. Okay, it's critical that it's the right kind of viscosity, because if it's too thick, it won't spread very well, B, it might crack, and if it's too thin, you won't be able to get very thick spreads because it will just run back together, and it also might crack. So there's a kind of golden ratio. So if you just put that there, set it to run. Okay. Just wait for this to return across. This is what it will look like after you spread it. You might notice that there are a few kind of pock marks on the top here, and these are just generally caused by bubbles from the milling process. This doesn't matter too much, they should even out once as they're drying. But generally the electrode is nice and smooth and it's kind of got that mirror finish, which hopefully means that it should perform well in a battery. Now I've heated up a hot plate here, and this is what we're going to dry our electrodes on. So if I just put this gently on top, be very careful, it'll be quite hot, stick a vial or just something to weigh it down. This needs to be done in a fume hood because this solvent is not especially good for you, and the whole point is that it should just evaporate off and into the fume hood. This is what your dried electrode should look like. As you can see, it's not shiny like it was before, so that means that all of our solvent has boiled off. And there are no obvious lumps or bumps. It's a nice smooth electrode. So we're ready to cut this out. So I'm just going to show you how you will cut little round electrode discs from our spread that we made yesterday. So first thing, we just get a sheet of paper on top. This just protects the electrode from the actual metal cutter, which can sometimes damage the edges, and you can also see the dark outline of your electrode on the aluminium through the paper, so that's quite useful. Make sure you've got this little boat underneath to catch your electrodes. You really don't need to press all that hard, you should just be able to feel the plunger go through the hole, like so. Okay, just firm press, just do it a couple of times. Okay, so I've cut 4 discs now from this electrode sheet. Push them through. Okay. Do we have a pair of tweezers? Anyway. So these are our discs. If I just remove the piece of paper on top, you can clearly see a nice round disc on one side with the black, and then the other side is the aluminium. Okay, that's what they should look like.